Welcome to the June 27, 2023 City Council meeting. Please stand for the invocation by Councilmember Wilder, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for Lynchburg City Council, our city staff, our citizens. We thank you for the work we're doing in our community to continue to change our community, to make our community better, make our community stronger. We speak peace. We speak prosperity. We speak love and unity in our community like never before. We ask you and your love to shower us and cover us, and just let the city council members and all of us together work as one and united for you to change situations that are negative, to change crime, to reduce crime, to reduce murders. Let's pray for our children, our staff members. Let's pray for our firefighters. Pray for the police officer that lost his life on last week in Wintergreen. Pray for his family, Lord. We continue to bless you. We love you. We adore you. In your precious name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda for public comment to add Jim Quattlebaum and Ryan Thomas to the end of the public comment section of the agenda.
Okay, is everybody okay with that? All right. Yes.
I'd also like to make a motion to add C.J. Jordan to the public comment section at the end of the meeting.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? All right.
Not officially motions, they're actual consent, right?
Yes.
Sounds like there's consensus.
Yes, there's consensus. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. This evening, we are honored to recognize the salutatorian and valedictorians of the 2023 graduating class of Heritage High School and EC Glass High School. Yes, we will allow the real applause for this one. This is not only a collection of their achievements for this year, but the collective of their academic year. It takes extreme dedication and commitment to be named the top of your class, and we are so proud of you. When I call your name, please make your way to the front to receive your certificate. Timothy Patterson, 2023 Heritage High School Class Salutatorian. Devin Funk, or I hope I'm saying it right, 2023 EC Glass High School Salutatorian. Did I say it right? Funky? Okay, Devin Funky, thank you. And William Bretzel, the 2023 EC Glass High School Class Valedictorian. Micah Evers from the 2023 Heritage High School Class Salutatorian is unable to be here tonight, but we would like to say congratulations to Micah. Okay, tonight's City Council agenda is divided into 4 sections: consent agenda, public hearing, public comment, and general business. The first section is the consent agenda. This section, yes, Vice Mayor?
Madam Mayor, I'd ask this item under the consent agenda be pulled to general business at the end of the evening.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that? Okay. We will be moving this consent item to general business, the bottom of general business. All right, moving on.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next section is public hearings. This section includes all public hearings as required by law or as council may direct. The procedure: the staff will make a presentation. Comments will then be solicited from the public. An individual speaker shall have 3 minutes to speak. If the speaker represents a group, the speaker shall have 5 minutes. A speaker representing a group shall identify that group at the beginning of his or her remarks, and a group may have only one spokesperson. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and locality of residence. Upon the conclusion of public comments, the public hearing will be closed and the matter referred to council for deliberation. Consideration of adopting an ordinance authorizing the sale of city-owned real estate to ANCH LLC located at Early Street. Staff will provide a brief summary of the request. Ms. Margette Upshur.
Thank you. Well then, good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of council. This agenda item is for a public hearing. This was brought to you as a business item briefing on June 13th. This is a parcel that is 0.07 acre lot that has been subdivided off of 410 Birch Street, which was originally a portion of Fire Station 4. ANCH LLC is the group that would like to purchase this property. It has been through the city process, which means it was advertised for sale. It was in the multiple listings. It was also assigned on site. And so the public hearing tonight is to take any comment. Mr. Fees is here representing ANCH LLC. So if you have any further questions, he and I would be more than happy to answer those. He owns the property, the house that is right next door to this property, and he's also purchased 2204, as I've mentioned before, Bedford Avenue, which is home. He has invested over $6 million and turned it into a food campus, which includes the Rivermont Refillery, Trust Restaurant, the Flower District Bakery. It's got a community kitchen, and it's the headquarters for Scratch Pasta, which we are so happy to have here in the city of Lynchburg. And I will also remind you that the proceeds of this sale, should it go through, will go back to the fire department.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor? Anyone who would like to speak in opposition? Are there any phone calls or emails from citizens?
There are none.
Okay. The public hearing is now closed and the matter rests with council. Do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No? Okay, please cast your vote. Wonderful. Okay, moving on. Consideration of adopting an ordinance granting a non-exclusive franchise to ANCH LLC to permit the use, maintenance, and work upon certain encroachments in the public rights of way of the city at 2204 Bedford Avenue. Staff will provide a brief summary of the request. Mr. Lee Newland. Hello.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, ANCH LLC has requested from the city a franchise agreement to be able to use the right-of-way in front of their building at 2204 Bedford Avenue for the use of a handicap accessible ramp to be able to get into their building.
Thank you very much. Would the petitioner like to make a presentation? No? Okay. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor? Anyone in opposition? Okay. Any emails or phone calls? All right. Public hearing is now closed. The matter rests with council. Yes?
So move.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right. Let's vote. Okay. Moving on. Consideration of adopting a resolution authorizing the 2023 bond anticipation note and consideration of introducing a resolution amending the fiscal year 2024 general water, sewer, and stormwater funds operating budgets to provide appropriations totaling $250,000 with resources from a bond anticipation note Series 2023 for costs associated with the issuance of $68,500,000 in BAN. Staff will provide a brief summary of the request. Ms. Donowit.
Thank you, Mayor. The city received bids from 3 banks with variable and fixed rates for 2- and 3-year maturities. Working with the city's financial advisors, Davenport & Company, J.P. Morgan Chase Bank was selected with a 3-year maturity and a variable interest rate. The current interest rate is 4.694%. The funds will be drawn as current projects and those in the adopted FY 2024 budget move forward. There is a second resolution to approve the issuance costs from the band proceeds of $250,000. After the public hearing, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor? Anyone in opposition? Any emails or phone calls? There are none. Okay, the public hearing is closed. The matter rests with council. May I have a motion on the resolution?
I guess before we do,
okay.
I'd just like to comment.
Okay.
You know, I recognize that the bond anticipation notes, there are some good things in here that are, I think, needed for capital, some of our water, some of our sewer, stormwater. But some of this is going to fund, I believe, unnecessary pork in our capital improvement plan. When we're looking at $68.5 million of new bond anticipation notes on a capital improvement plan that probably should be vetted a little bit better before we look at all this extra spending. Just with the interest on here alone, per year, it's going to be another 4 cents on the real estate tax rate. I would like to see us, before we move forward with more debt and more issuance of more debt to obligate our taxpayers, that we fully vet all those projects. Some of them can be actually fairly decent with regarding the water and the sewer and the stormwater. Those are under the enterprise funds, the airport. Those are enterprise funds that are actually paying for them themselves. Some of the other projects, I don't think we should be funding at this time. I think this should be sorely minimized, but as presented, I can't in good conscience vote in favor of this. And so I will be voting against this and hope we can come back with something that's more reasonable.
Dr. Wilder?
Move for approval.
Do I have a second? Okay. Any additional discussion? I'll go ahead and take your first. I'm sorry.
Again, they're very needed capital projects that we've been reviewing over the past couple of months. When I look at our city, look at the growth that I've seen over the years, I've seen extensive growth, especially in downtown area and other projects. These are very needed projects. We can put things off, and then before you know it, the things are beyond repair. So we want to make sure we keep our city prosperous, keep our city well-maintained, keep our city growing. Thank you.
Councilman Dolan?
I have nothing to add to that.
Councilman Missions?
I will not be voting in favor of this because of exactly what Councilmember Helgeson spoke to. There's a lot of pork in the capital improvement plan that we can probably go through and vet a little better, specifically on the city side, which is the majority of it. It's $35.9 million worth of this. So I will not be in support of this. It's just too much spending.
Ms. Witt, can you get back, would you mind coming back up, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I guess I'm a little confused on the comments here. So would you like to explain more of actually what this is going to be spent on?
These are projects that are currently in the process, and then also for the projects that are in the adopted 2024 CIP, and those we haven't even started yet, haven't even looked at the process yet. And the reason we do it this way with the bond anticipation note is so that we're not borrowing it all at once, and that we only borrow the money as the projects move forward. So we make a monthly draw on these funds, and we only pay interest on what we draw. So it really has saved us millions in interest as we've done this over the years. So, but these are projects that are currently ongoing. One reason I need this to move forward tonight is our sewer fund. We're having to pull our cash out of investments to fund some of our ongoing sewer projects, so that this gets in place and we pay ourselves that cash back. So it really is for current projects and the ones that were approved in the adopted budget as those move forward. Honestly, I don't anticipate needing money for the city capital fund till probably almost a year later before we need to draw down those funds, because we did do a bond offering for the police department, and that's our biggest project that's moving forward in city cap at this point.
Right now.
For the sewer fund, which is this $65 million is broken up between the water, sewer, stormwater, airport, and the city capital fund.
Okay. And it's also saving us money by doing it this way. All right, any other discussion?
So one item, if I may.
Councilman Helgeson.
You know, in hearing as what Ms. Witt said about some of those items that I had already alluded to, putting a pencil to it, the water, the sewer, the stormwater, the airport, the enterprise funds, those are about $26.5 million. If we add another maybe $10 million on there, that would be currently authorizing up to $36.5 million, which should give enough for the water, the sewer, those enterprise funds, plus have some extra for others, but then still give us opportunity to weigh in on the bulk of it, which is the city capital projects. So I'll amend the motion, I'll make a substitute motion if that would be in order, that we approve the bands at $36.5 million.
Second.
Any other discussion on this substitute motion?
I guess since I made the motion, if I can speak to it, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
You know, as Ms. Witt stated, that some of those items are needed currently and needed fairly quickly. The rest of it won't be actually spent, and the bond anticipation notes won't be utilized for about a year or so until those projects are there. So I think this should be plenty room to give a bridge and plenty of cushion there with the extra $10 million on top of the water, the sewer, the stormwater, the airport capital projects funds of $26.5 million, plus a cushion of another $10 million, which should give plenty of room.
This is a 3-year note. The banks have actually responded to an RFP based on this amount of money. I'm not sure that we wouldn't have to just go back and redo the RFP and resubmit it for banks to rebid on. So I don't know what that would look like.
So what I'm hearing you say is you've asked for what we need, specifically as it's been requested and approved.
Because it is over a 3-year period. So we wouldn't, it gives us opportunity to have that in place. The banks have bid on it. It actually gives us better bids. But to reduce it, I don't know that these banks would honor that. So I just don't know. We'd have to, I'm not sure we could vote on that tonight, that I would have to go back and work with our financial advisors in procurement to understand how that worked.
I would also submit these bonds tend to have very, very stringent requirements. If there is a need for a substitute motion, that's something council would want to do. It's probably better to do a deferral to a specific date to allow staff to look into that.
I'll withdraw the substitute motion.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Feraldi?
That was going to be my recommendation, is that if we have the ability to position this for July 11th, maybe?
I'd have to redo the public hearing, and we wouldn't have time to turn it around that fast.
Question.
Because we would have to put it out for bids again, I imagine.
Question, because we've already had the public hearing, all we're doing is deferring action on it. So do you need to move the public hearing? Because we've already had the public hearing. We're just saying we're going to delay and get some more information.
It'd be the public hearing was specific to the proposed bond being issued. So I think if that changes, and certainly I don't want to speak to bond counsel, that represents the city in this matter, but it could be that we need to redo the public hearing if the substance of the bond changes.
Understood. I think for me, I'd be comfortable just getting more about what you submitted, and then if it needs to be redone, we can move accordingly. But I think putting this to a work session would just be the easiest thing at this point.
Well, there's a motion on the floor that's been seconded to go ahead and vote for it tonight. I feel like, Ms. Witt has explained the need for it now for our sewer fund and explained that it's saving us money. I feel like she's explained thoroughly the need for what she's asked for, and it's been vetted and explained. So we need to vote for it, and unless someone else has a concern as to why they think this is not acceptable, that our CFO has explained this, aside from the objections we've heard, we need to go ahead and vote on it either way. So I'm going to call the vote.
Well, and just for clarification, is the vote that's being made on the resolution and paperwork before council as presented?
Right, the motion was made as it's currently being presented, yes.
I withdrew my
Yes, he
substitute
withdrew the
motion.
substitute.
So this is a motion to approve it. So what happens if the motion to approve it fails? So maybe you can address that.
If the motion failed, I presume city staff would regroup and re-examine the circumstances and work with city council to bring back what potentially you all would be speaking to in lieu of it.
So would a better option to be, as the vice mayor presented, to actually amend the motion to actually defer it to the work session rather than voting against it tonight? Then that may require the new advertising of a public hearing. If we defer action and defer it till the work session to where we can get the items, I think that would leave things open probably a little bit more than being finite with saying, no, we're voting against this unless it's going to
Councilman
pass.
Taylor has put his hand up. I'd like to call on him.
So can he answer my question first?
I would probably defer to city staff on the timeliness and other matters as it relates to approving of the bond. That's not something I would speak to.
I know the bids are only good for a certain amount of time, so I would imagine we'd have to start over.
Yes, Ms. Witt, how much fat is in this?
It's for 3 years, but I can't spend a penny that's not appropriated by city council. And these projects, the current ones need to move forward. We need to keep our word on our contracts that we've hired for the projects that are ongoing. The future projects, those can change. Those can change. It's based on what was in the CIP, what we think is going to happen over 3 years. But if a project's in there and it doesn't get appropriated, we can't borrow for it. So it's based on what's going to happen over the next 3 years. But we can only start with current projects that are already appropriated and the ones that were appropriated in the '24 budget. But it's going to take us a while to get started on those.
And we need to be able to pay our bills.
Yes, we need this to pay our bills for these construction projects.
Okay, so I'm going to call a vote on the motion that has been motioned and seconded, please.
The motion passes 4-3.
Thank you. Next section is public comment. During public comment, individual speakers have 3 minutes to speak, and those representing a group have 5 minutes to speak. Typically, City Council takes comments made during the public comments section of the agenda under advisement and may refer concerns to the city manager for follow-up. Citizens often express conflicting and diverse positions regarding specific issues under consideration. To encourage citizen participation and to avoid intimidation to persons who may express sometimes unpopular opinions, applause, cheers, or jeers from the audience are not permitted. When appearing before City Council, citizens may not engage in behavior that intimidates or insults others, engage in disruptive behavior, use profanity or vulgar language, promote private business ventures, or campaign for office. We will now hear from a citizen regarding about the draft resolution entitled "A Resolution to Promote Merit, Excellence, and Opportunity in City Government," Mr. Jeff Rosner.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Rosner, Lynchburg resident, and I'm speaking against Mr. Miston's draft resolution that's coming up later tonight. The word diversity does not appear in the resolution, and I don't recall any city council candidates campaigning on the issue of diversity. Nevertheless, the resolution would have drastic effects on diversity in city employment. The resolution defines the concept that, quote, an individual should receive favorable treatment because of his or her race or sex, unquote, as a racist or sexist concept. The resolution says the city manager is directed to cease any employment practices that do not comply with the provisions of this resolution. And it says, all city policies and procedures shall be amended and or updated to reflect this resolution. So, if the resolution is passed, several current city policies under the Diversity and Inclusion Plan would be eliminated. Also, the resolution, if passed, would eliminate a current policy to accommodate employee conditions, including pregnancy, childbirth, and lactation. And finally, the resolution defines the concept that, quote, individuals or institutions cannot or should not treat individuals without regard to race or sex, unquote, as a racist or a sexist concept. So, the resolution favors treating individuals without regard to race or sex and without any exceptions. But that would mean not having separate bathrooms for men and women. So according to the definition in the resolution, being in favor of separate bathrooms would be sexist. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosner. We'll now hear from a citizen regarding Councilmember Mission's proposal, Ms. Brenda Farmer. Also, please restate your name and locality of residence.
I would like for the members of the NAACP to please join me.
Yes, Dr. Farmer is representing a group, so she has 5 minutes. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is Dr. Brenda Farmer, and on behalf of the Lynchburg Vote NAACP Unit 7088, we would like to voice our disagreement to Councilman Ms. June's resolution to control, merit, excellence, and opportunities in the city of Lynchburg by City Council. The mission of the NAACP is to disrupt inequality, dismantle racism, and accelerate social justice for everybody. In our city, we have pressing issues at every council meeting from day one, trying to dismantle our wonderful history, only making us more determined to move forward with agape love. Every American should enjoy equal rights without discrimination based on race and sex. It is critical that we all understand the laws and the court system that shapes our everyday lives. In the 14th Amendment of our Constitution, in Section 1, It contains a number of important concepts: state actions, privileges, humanities, citizenship, due process, and equal protection. It reads, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any laws which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. When the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence were signed, it was a promissory note to which every American was given a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, should be guaranteed the unavailable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We cannot walk alone. We shall always march ahead. We will not turn back. I say to our Lynchburg City Council, let's stop this division that Councilman Miss June is proposing. Some people need to be re-educated in leadership skills. If Lynchburg is to be a great city, we have to come together. In closing, from the words of a great humanitarian who served all, regardless of race and sex, he advised the crowd that we must be sure that our struggle is conducted on the highest level of dignity and discipline, and remind us not to drink the poisonous wine of hate, but to us, the way of nonviolence when taking direct action against oppression. Let's walk together for peace, harmony, and in love for all of God's people. Thank you for allowing us to be here. Thank y'all.
Now hear from a citizen regarding the mission resolution, Mr. Owen Cardwell. Please restate your name and locality of residence.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council. My name is Owen Cardwell. I'm president of the Lynchburg Voters League. If there are members of the Voters League present, I'd like for them to join me tonight. At first, I thought it was a joke, but then I gradually began to realize that fascism and totalitarianism had come to Lynchburg. The latest resolution coming from Councilman Marty Mistion is about as hypocritical as they come. While he is suing the city for his so-called First Amendment rights, he wants to deny the same to city employees. And if that were not appalling enough, he also wants to deny them or his fellow council members any right to discuss, debate, or disagree with his point of view. In addition, isn't his proposal and procedural push a violation of standing protocols? Lynchburg Voters League is still unsure as to whether or not Mr. Mistion should not be recusing himself from any human resource issues related to the city. If Mr. Michigan is going to take it upon himself to run this city, why do we need a city manager? Members of City Council, please let Mr. Bender do his job and reject Councilman Michigan's resolution. Thank you.
We now hear from a citizen regarding the proposed MEO resolution. Ms. Joyce Shaughnessy, please restate your name and locality of residence.
Hey, I am Joyce Shaughnessy, 2242 Columbia. I'll try to be pretty brief here. The goal stated at the beginning of the resolution is to develop a highly capable, cohesive, effective, and efficient municipal workforce. I see the desirability of that stated goal. I too desire to live in a cohesive community with a government that is effective and efficient. I do, however, strongly disagree that this resolution has any hope of achieving that outcome for our wonderful community. Creating a cohesive community has to start with a foundation of honesty and truth. It must be grounded in reality. This resolution attempts to equate the absence of a discussion about history, racism, and sexism with a reality that is actually absent of those issues. Unfortunately, not talking about these issues does not make them cease to exist. There is an indirectly stated assertion that diversity training exists in opposition to merit-based opportunities. It inserts a divisive idea as a truth. In reality, our city can embrace the qualities of diversity alongside qualities of hard work and excellence. We're all familiar with the saying that those who cannot remember history are condemned to repeat it, and we must not fail to remember the context into which we are speaking when we discuss matters of racism. Lynchburg City Schools didn't begin integration until 1962, I believe. I could be corrected on that by people here. But my parents were teenagers at this time. This resolution is attempting to ban discussion not just of a present reality, but also of a very recent living history that was a much different condition. I can support the goal of this council to create a cohesive municipal workforce. There's many things I can find common ground on, many things that you campaigned on about making safer schools. I want Max and Remy to have a very safe place to be welcomed and educated. However, unfortunately, I don't think that this resolution meets those shared goals. Thank you.
Now here is this regarding muzzling the First Amendment. That's how it's written. Lana Haley, please restate your name and locality of residence.
I think you skipped one, but it's all right. Okay. I'm Lano Haley, retired Lynchburg City School teacher and also resident of Lynchburg. And I stand here tonight in front of City Council, but actually, I may as well address my comments to my fellow citizens, since the new extremist Republican majority on our City Council has demonstrated time and again that it has no interest in or intention of listening to the voices of the governed, that is us. This is all a sham, folks, all for show. The new Republican majority has probably already made up its mind about Mr. Michigan's resolution outside of this chamber. Excuse me? Okay. Outside this chamber. And they're just pretending to listen to you and care about your opinions now. This has been their MO since they took office in January. Tonight, citizens have come forward in good faith to express their views with passion and eloquence, but their good faith and belief in our traditions of governance are confronted here by bad faith, and their very dismay at the anti-American conditions of this resolution are a feature, not a bug, to the Republican majority on City Council. That majority is intent on cramming culture wars down our throats while muzzling our freedom of speech. In this case, Mr. Michigan's cover letter explicitly demands the quashing of any dissent or commentary from the very people who would be most directly impacted by this resolution, the employees of the city of Lynchburg. I asked my fellow citizens, what exactly is the problem in Lynchburg for which Mr. Michigan's resolution is the solution? Evidence? Data? Facts? Well, in actual fact, This resolution was plagiarized word for word from Pennsylvania General Assembly Bill 1532 from 2021, a bill that was sent to the Education Committee and never heard from again. That this bill was sent to the Pennsylvania Education Committee perhaps hints at the actual target of this resolution, Lynchburg City Schools, yet again. Nothing in this resolution has anything to do with the growth and development of our city. It is all imported from outside, performative politics and culture wars meant to silence and divide us. But there are still remedies, friends. Sign the petition circulating in Lynchburg to remove Mr. Mischens from his current perch as the de facto head of Lynchburg City Council, so your voice can and will be heard. It is, after all, the American way.
We will now hear from Citizen regarding speaking against the proposed MEO plan, Kathleen Davis.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I apologize for what I'm about to say. Kwanzaa is a fake holiday invented by violent pervert and convicted criminal Ronald McKinley Everett, and its 7 principles mirror those of the Marxist Liberation Army. Would you like to guess which council member said that? The statement I just read and the proposed resolution to promote merit, excellence, and opportunity were written about the same subject, albeit different angles, but both are written by Martin Mischens. And this statement from the councilman is just a drop in the bucket of things unbefitting of a sitting council member. This resolution is an example of big government thought control, and a growing number of citizens are rejecting this constant big government grandstanding. That you say this about Kwanzaa and that about city employees' free speech rights, and it doesn't match up. I thought free speech mattered to all of us. And you know, if racism and sexism are not a problem here, it wouldn't come up and you wouldn't have to ban talking about it. But if you think you have to ban talking about racism and sexism, that seems like admitting there's a problem. It seems to me you want to stop citizens from their right to critique their government. Council members, I also wonder if this would have any bearing on Mischens' lawsuit against the city. I wonder if you would financially benefit from this. Imagine financially benefiting from big government and limiting free speech. We elected you, we funded you. We now ask that you participate in the dignity of this council and treat our city as a place of opportunity and not a playground for personal gain and vendettas. Other members of council, if you vote for this, you are participating in big government. If you vote for this, you could be enabling someone suing the city from the city council seat. And if you vote for this, you are trying to limit free speech. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from a citizen regarding Marty Mischens' MEO proposal, Nicole Sanders.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor Feraldi, members of council. My name is Nicole Sanders, and I'm a citizen of Lynchburg, Virginia. And I'm here yet again to speak out on a matter in front of council. I'm sure you're tired of hearing me, and believe me, I would much rather be at home in my PJs watching this meeting from my sofa. But here I am. I'm here to speak against Mr. Mischens' MEO resolution, and I'm here not because I think it's going to change anybody's mind. I think each of you have already decided how you intend to vote on this. I'm here to speak for the historical record. I'm a professional historian by training, and I know that at some point, maybe 50 years, maybe 100 years from now, someone writing an article or a paper or a thesis will look back at this MEO and wonder how it passed and if anyone objected. I want the historical record to be clear that Mischens' MEO policy is deeply flawed and deeply problematic, and that people did object. It is important to me that folks in the future know that not everyone in Lynchburg, Virginia agreed with Marty Mischens. It is also important to me that people in Lynchburg understand its past. Many people believe that Democrats hate America, and I have to say nothing is further from the truth. I love America. And one of the reasons I love this country is because we are not afraid to face ugly truths, and we're not afraid to work together to make things better. It is an ugly truth that slavery existed in this country for almost 250 years. It is an ugly truth that African Americans then experienced Jim Crow, laws that remained in place well into the 20th century. It is an ugly truth that there are people in this room who attended segregated schools and remember the city when the city filled in the pool at Riverside Park rather than allow African Americans to swim in it. These truths do not go away because Marty Misjuns is tired of talking about it. But I ask, how can the city make effective policies if we don't study the past and speak about how the past created the social problems we see today? For example, the mayor is working with community members to curb gun and neighborhood violence. How can we understand violence without understanding how some neighborhoods have been historically under-resourced because of redlining and other policies? These are structural problems created by policies pursued in the past. The MEO policy would not allow us to talk about this. There are many other issues with the MEO that many very smart people have discussed and will discuss tonight. I hope City Council tonight is brave enough to vote against this proposal, face parts of our past that are ugly, and work together with all members of the community to move Lynchburg forward. Thank you.
From a citizen on the proposed resolution, Councilmember Misjuns' resolution on racism and sexism, Ms. Cindy Ferguson. Please restate your name and locality of residence.
Hello, my name is Cindy Ferguson and I live in Ward 1. Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members, for allowing me to speak. I'm here tonight to express my concern over the resolution being presented tonight for discussion and vote that was submitted by council member Mr. Misjuns. Although the title, Resolution to Promote Merit, Excellence, and Opportunity, is an honorable one, both the letter and the resolution do not address what this means and what this would look like. Rather, both seem to come with a tone of hate, revenge, or rebellion and dictatorship by using language like control and manage, not interested in negotiating. Debate on this matter needs to be left up to City Council. Also, Mr. Misjuns seems to be projecting his own moral character on both the city employees as well as the city constituents. However, it is okay for others to have different moral character than is projected in what has been submitted. Different is not always bad, simply different. Also, the language of the resolution does not reflect best practice language and definitions and may result in more lawsuits against our city, costing taxpayers more in an already shaved-down budget. Although this resolution does not specifically mention DEI, best practices of diversity, equity, and inclusion language and training seeks to create unity and awareness of differences with goals of making welcome and the feeling of inclusion of those with differing abilities, economic statuses, political views, races, sexes, sexual identities and orientations, spiritual or faith backgrounds and perspectives, and lived experiences. This resolution only mentions 2 of these differences with definitions that are not the standard. As a resident of this community, I live, work, and play and serve in with those that are all sorts of that have all sorts of differences. I love learning from unique and different perspectives and experiences. As a professional, I work with students, faculty, staff, and community organizations, and I believe that it is important to have civil conversations about differences to have a better awareness and understanding of different perspectives and lived experiences so as not to cause harm to other people. As a former school counselor, I worry about students of color, those in poverty, those with differing abilities, and those who identify as LGBTQ+ with the wording of this resolution, especially if this is the direction that you want our city schools to operate. As a Christian, I believe that our greatest purpose is to love God and to love others. This is actually what Jesus said are the greatest commandments: to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Because Mr. Misjuns says that he is a Christian, with the wording and tone of this letter and resolution that was submitted, I must ask, do you love God, do you love yourself, and do you love your neighbors who are constituents?
Opposed by Councilmember Misjuns. From the YWCA, Ms. Stephanie Andrews.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is Stephanie Andrews, CEO for YWCA of Central Virginia. I invite my board of directors to come stand alongside me as I present to you tonight. I stand before you this evening against the resolution put forth by council member missions. YWCA's mission is to eliminate racism, empower women, and promote peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. We stand up for social justice, we help families, and we strengthen our community. We are one of the oldest and largest women organizations in the nation. Here in Central Virginia, for over 110 years, we have done all of this through various means, to include what we do on a daily basis to help the members of our community escape domestic violence, sexual assault, and help provide safe, affordable housing for single women with low and fixed incomes. We're the only provider to offer the only provider in this area to offer child supervised visitation services. We also work daily to empower women, children, and men that walk through our doors during their time of need. Our work doesn't stop there. We are one of 200 associations, part of a larger national associations of YWCAs across the world. Our reach extends globally as well. We collectively share the same mission of setting programs in place in our respective communities where we educate, teach, and advocate for members, partners, clients, and staff on various racial inequities that our nation and our community faces. We offer various diversity, equity, and inclusion training opportunities to our community partners in efforts to support our mission and the work that we do. In order to have capable, cohesive, effective, and efficient workforces, diversity, equity, and inclusion needs to be at the forefront of all professional development trainings. To not have a large number of members of our community not be allowed to participate in said trainings is a huge disappointment and will cause a huge disservice to our community. YWCA remains committed to ensuring that everyone is afforded equal protection under the law, and our intersectional mission demands that we show up to advocate against the oppression that many groups and individuals endure, including through recognizing the interconnected experiences of discrimination and disadvantages that women and others face from their overlapping identities. At YWCA, we demand a world of equity and human decency. We envision a world of opportunity. We commit ourselves to the work of racial justice, so every day we will get up and continue to do the work until injustice is rooted out, until institutions are transformed, until the world sees women, girls, and people of color the way that we do, equal, powerful, and unstoppable. This resolution is against all that we stand for, and I strongly encourage you not to pass. Thank you.
We'll now hear from a citizen regarding agenda referencing promoting excellence in the city by Council Missions, M.W. Thornhill IV.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, City Council members, good evening. My name is Merle W. Thornhill IV. I'm a Lynchburg City native and current resident. I want to offer comments on this resolution. The importance of programs that provide insight into diversity and sensitivity training. While stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, when I was a soldier, I was attached to units composed of 6 to 10 fellow soldiers within small teams over long periods of time. The mission was given to neutralize a threat or achieve a task. Understanding a person on the left, right, in front, or behind me, and trusting them with my life helped me to build trust in ways and know that you are here for each other. A multidisciplinary approach is needed to understand diverse people, as is evidenced by witnessing comments that are made to women in a dominant male arena that can be considered chauvinistic, statements that are made accidentally or unintentionally because of ignorance on historical facts of one's ethnicity, religious beliefs, or social status. A great city made of professionals from all walks of life, many of whom have been misunderstood because of a lack of knowledge in our great melting pot called Lynchburg. Requires programs that will help us navigate a plan to keep our city moving forward, civically, socially, and economically. If the actual mission is to place the well-being of our citizens and our city first, why wouldn't we want to understand each other better? This training helps employees recognize unconscious bias and the barriers to inclusion and diversity. This will motivate positive behaviors and attitude to create and maintain a respectful workplace. Lynchburg is diversity. Our municipal employees, city council members, and employees in general should all engage in diversity training. My own profession calls for me to provide a service like many others here. Therefore, I need to understand the people I'm serving. City council member and public officials have been placed here to represent the citizens of Lynchburg. What better way to understand our citizens than having training on diversity? I welcome this robust debate on the topic to keep us progressing to a great future and not regressing to a time often read in history books. This is much larger than Democratic, Republican, Libertarian, Independent, or Green Party. This is humanistic. Never be afraid to observe and learn from different lenses, and always operate in the highest level of integrity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll now hear from a citizen regarding the proposed ban of discussion of racism or sexism and prevent city employees from participating in any DEI trainings or discussions. Ms. Maggie Miller, please restate your name and locality of residence.
My name is Maggie Millard. I live in Diamond Hill. Our community has seen and experiences daily the impacts of systemic racism. Our city employees don't need less DEI training, they need more, starting with those of you who intend to vote for this resolution. By removing these conversations from schools and federal employees, state employees, we're not doing anything to fix that problem. You're perpetuating it. Now, I understand that this is not an issue we agree on, and that's okay. While I would love to debate that with you, that's not what I'm here for. That's not what I'm here for because you've repeatedly expressed that you're not interested in hearing from citizens or stakeholders in the decisions that you're making. I'm here to remind you, Marty, that you received less than 17% of the vote. Your personal opinion has no place in making decisions for our city. Because you see, this is our city. You got less than 20% of the vote. You have no public mandate to force Marty's personal fears and prejudices onto the rest of us. You proudly declare that you're not interested in negotiating changes to your pet resolution with citizens and stakeholders. How is your version of reality and morality superior to that of the 80% of people who did not elect you? Where does that hubris come from? I asked the last time I came here to speak, and I'll ask again. Who do you think you are?
We will now hear from a citizen regarding Marty Mission's proposal on diversity. Mr. Carl Hutcherson, please restate your name and locality of residence. Oh, what? James City? I don't have James City on here. Mr. Hutcherson.
Yes, sir. If I can sit down.
I'm sorry, sit right there. James City?
Okay, I'm sorry.
I apologize. Okay, you're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please remember, audience, I need y'all to, we can do this.
I come representing a marketing firm and company, which is a nonprofit firm tonight. But I come in a little different vein. One of the things that has always been a part of my heart is to show forgiveness. But in order to show forgiveness, there must come repentance. And I believe our councilman needs to repent. Therefore, I'm praying for him. I start with a question. Councilmember Ms. Jones, how do you see, and you don't have to answer now because you're going to make your presentation a little later, how do you see your proposal bringing all of the citizens of Lynchburg together that we might work as one unit? People who voted for you, people who did not. There's an analogy that I've been thinking about all day. If you go to the grocery store, you're probably encouraged to buy certain vegetables. Well, if you got squash, you got yellow. If you got green beans, you got green. You got beets, you got red. If you got carbohydrates, you got potatoes, you got white or red. If you got other items, they were different colors. But all of them are necessary in order to make a complete meal. All of our citizens are necessary to make a complete people. And the resolution that you propose seems to counter that very premise. And so I encourage you to remember who we are as a city. We have come an awful long way. And yes, we've got a long way to go. But the only way we're going to get there is to work together. There was a famous human being who years ago roused people up and caused them to follow him even to the end of his life journey. I don't ever want to see us be so MAGA that we are led to the foot of Hitler. God bless you.
Citizen regarding Mr. Mission's comments about banning diversity training and conversations about racism and sexism in the city offices. Patrick Sabin. I have an updated version. That was correct, yes. Patrick Sabin? No? Okay. Vicente Gonzalez.
Hi, I'm Vicente Gonzalez. First, I would like to state the obvious that this resolution is a blatant attack on people of color, women, queer people, and measures to protect equity, diversity, and inclusion, which have taken generations to achieve and implement. In regards to the language and arbitrary redefining of racist and sexist concepts, there is a lot to unpack. First, line 2, which attempts to eliminate the referencing of implicit and explicit racial and sexist bias. Also, line 7, which prevents saying an individual by virtue of his or her race or sex bears responsibility for actions committed in the past by members of the same race or sex. Where is this coming from? What sources and research were used in this definition? Are we really, as a community and city, going to let Marty Misjuns define racism and sexism in a way which benefits his political agenda? This is a clear, concerted attempt to erase history and the presence of prejudiced social structures in which we live. Also, in line 9, the proposal redefines a racist or sexist concept to include saying the city of Lynchburg, the Commonwealth of Virginia, or the United States of America is fundamentally racist or sexist. This seems to really be a violation of free speech. We, as the free peoples of the United States, have the right to critique our city, our state, and our country. Also, in the third clause, the resolution states that funds may be used in violation of this policy in order to meet a state or federal requirement or of a professional licensing agency. How is this going to be overseen? What is the process of sifting through all these programs and policies going to look like? Lastly, we keep seeing a push to eliminate programs around social justice for the sake of promoting merit. I find this deeply confusing, especially in the context of Lynchburg. Although the integration of Lynchburg City schools began in 1962, our schools were not fully integrated until 1970, 16 years after Brown versus Board of Education. How is it possible to discuss or even define the concept of merit outside of the context of slavery, Jim Crow, and segregation? To ignore the very clear accumulation of generational wealth and privileges is deeply disconnected from reality. This proposal is deeply disconnected from reality. Thank you for letting me speak.
All right, we now hear from a citizen regarding Councilman Mishron's proposed resolution. Dennis Richards. Roberts. It's Richards on here. Was it Roberts, Ms. Finney? Okay. If you signed up, then it's you.
Thank you. Mayor, Vice Mayor, other members of City Council. I have been privileged to live in this city for over 32 years now, and never have I been as concerned as now about the direction in which we as a community seem to be going. We are seeing people move away out of the city, not because of so-called oppressive tax rates, but because of the attacks on our public schools and the meanness and enslavement to extremism we see seeping into our civic life and discourse. The proposed council resolution to promote merit, excellence, and opportunity is just one more example. There should be nothing divisive about diversity, equity, and inclusion, because what those concepts have as a common thread is love of neighbor, a tenet held by multiple religious and secular traditions. We know that inclusivity in schools, in businesses, in sports, in nonprofit and faith-based organizations, and yes, in city government, makes for a stronger, more successful, more productive community and workforce, and a better quality of life for everyone. If these ways to love our neighbors make us uncomfortable, perhaps it's because they challenge us to confront the ways in which we fall short, the ways in which our shadow side emerges. Diversity, equity, and inclusion training serves as a mirror in which we can see our reflection, and that may not be a pretty picture. The hope is that out of that discomfort, there comes the inspiration and empowerment to make changes that will help us love our neighbors and ourselves even better. Perhaps we, as has been suggested, we as a city should be expanding diversity, equity, and inclusion training and make it mandatory for all city council members. We as citizens can certainly see the need to address issues including bullying, racism, sexism, misogyny, heterosexism, and a host of other issues right here in this chamber. We as voters can see how our female mayors, present and past, have been treated, and by how a now former city employee was subjected to a verbal lynching that was initiated within these very walls. Our city can have a brighter future if we work together each and every day to have courageous conversations about how to better love our neighbors and make Lynchburg a more inclusive, welcoming place for all. This council resolution, supposedly to promote merit, excellence, and opportunity, is a giant step backwards. Thank you.
We'll now move on to the names that were added at the beginning of the meeting. Mr. Quattlebaum? Janice, Ms. Quattlebaum? Jim Quattlebaum. Okay, who was the second name that was added? Ryan Thomas? Ryan? Okay. Followed by C.J. Jordan.
Sorry.
What's your name?
Greetings. Carlos Etcherson.
Oh, I don't think we didn't add you on the list, I'm sorry.
I'm not on there?
No, sorry.
Okay. Y'all want to give me 2 minutes anyway?
No, we didn't amend the agenda, I'm sorry. We had. No, that was the previous, Carl Hutcherson.
Right there.
Ryan Thomas, yes. Right? Carl Hutcherson. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ryan, 2nd Ward. I'll just get right into it. I've decided to use my time tonight to, rather than argue the technicalities of the resolution in question, talk about the ideology that this resolution takes aim at, an ideology that is both distinctly political and stubbornly virulent. Marxism and its corollaries must first destabilize and disrupt before they can fully manifest. Marx initially exploited fracture lines between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. It was the obvious play at the time in 19th century Europe. But it didn't really work well in America. There was too much class mobility. Last year's poor man might be this year's rich man, and so while Marxist thought gained traction in the insulated, naive bubbles of academia throughout the 20th century, it never quite resonated with the common man. But around the middle of the last century, the left started seeking other means to divide us, this time not along socioeconomic lines, but along racial ones. Their efforts found purchase and seeds were planted that ultimately led us to where we are today, a nation more racially divided than ever, despite being more progressive than ever. The modern anti-racist movement is rotten fruit from a poisonous tree, one that has spread authoritarian tyranny and death so effectively that Hitler's own wicked genocides pale in comparison, and it's anything but anti-racist. In Ibram X. Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist, which I've actually taken the time to read, he writes, "The only remedy to racist discrimination is anti-racist discrimination. The only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. And the only remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination." If we accept this thoroughly evil proposition, we will forever be locked in a bitter cycle of hatred and injustice. And it's precisely this prescription that serves as the root of modern DEI initiatives and ideology, the ideology that this resolution rightly seeks to dismantle. When one accepts a common sense definition of racism, that one's race alone confers superiority or inferiority, it is actually racist to treat someone differently due solely to the color of their skin. It is actually racist to imply that one is racist merely by virtue of one's skin color. I could go on, but when we reject the conception of racism that has been redefined in spectacularly Orwellian fashion by the left, and accept the definition that's been used for the last few hundred years by all of humanity, the resolution becomes entirely uncontroversial. This resolution is simply remedial action. Politics is downstream of culture, but government and culture exist in a positive feedback cycle. So in order to combat this corrosive, corrupt ideology, I do see value in addressing it at the level of policy in this particular context. In addition, using taxpayer dollars to promote distinctly political ideology is a clear violation of government ethics. Thank you.
CJ Jordan? She got in here? Okay. You go ahead.
Sir, in the back.
Mr. Anderson? Carlos?
Carlos, did you sign up, or did you think you did, or, because if not, I do want to get, if you want to speak, I would be fine with just adding one more speaker to the list.
Thank you.
Is council okay with that?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Carlos Hutcherson from Lynchburg, Virginia, all my life. And I'm here, and everyone's here. It's kind of disturbing where it looks like we're going as a city. And it's concerning for me. I'm not one to get up and talk for no reason. But council just seems as if it's in a flux. It's in a Councilman Heggleston's been here. I guess you're the senior on council, and I'm sure you've never seen council like this before. It's concerning where everyone stands. I see this. I've read the proposal, and it's concerning. That's not us here in Lynchburg. That's not what we do. I went to EC Glass. We're all one city. Racial division, we fight those things. Ideology divisions, we fight those things. We're about love and getting along, not so much about dividing everybody, which is the only concerning part that I have. I am concerned about some of the how we educate our kids and those things, so we do need to keep an eye on those, but we don't need to make divisive statements from the city. I don't think that's the proper place for the city to make these divisive statements, as opposed to statements that to keep us together, statements that further the ball down the aisle, as opposed to trying to take us back 3 steps. Let's move forward. I'm asked to speak today solely because of the proposal that's before the council. And I don't know Mr. Mischens, but I know some of the other members of council. And I know it's not one person or one voice that controls these things. And so I'm speaking to everyone else to say, where do you stand on these proposals? Where do you stand as a person who's been on council and worked with everyone to make things happen, to further the city, to further causes of love and not causes of hate? Where do you stand? How will you vote today? I'd love to see it. I'll be here to see how everyone chooses to align themselves, and I hope everyone aligns themselves with love and not with hate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right, moving on to general business. This section includes general items of new business, consideration of introducing a resolution amending the fiscal year 2024 city, federal, state aid fund budget and appropriating $964,424 within the National Opioid Settlement Funds to expand the work of the Lynchburg Adult Drug Court, or the LADC. This item was presented to council during our business item briefings on June 13th, 2023. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No? Okay, let's vote. All right, moving on. Consideration of adopting a resolution authorizing the negotiation between the Lynchburg City School Board and Southern Air, Inc. for the Dunbar Middle School Heating Renovations Public-Private Education Act PPEA proposal. This item was presented to council during our business item briefings on June 13th, 2023. May I have a motion? Or do we have any?
So moved. And
Oh, okay.
second.
Okay.
And Madam Mayor, I see Ms. Pugh's here if we have any questions.
Just if there were any questions, I was here in Dr. Lodig's absence.
And no questions on my part.
Any questions for me? All right, let's vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right. We will now move on to school board appointments. Council held public interviews last week with candidates from districts 1, 2, and 3 for terms beginning on July 1st, 2023. Starting with District 1, may I have a motion for an appointment?
Madam Mayor, I move to appoint Christian DePaul to District 1.
Okay, I second. Any discussion?
I would like to make a, Mayor.
Pardon?
I would like to make a substitute motion and appoint Dr. Robert Brennan.
Second.
Okay. So the substitute motion is for Dr. Brennan. Would you like to speak to your?
Yes, I would like to speak to my motion. Dr. Brennan has served exceptionally for the past 6 years on school board. He has extensive knowledge in instruction, curriculum, facilities, transportation, staffing issues, and fiscal management. I would be hard-pressed to support 3 newbies to a board when it takes at least 2 years to develop an understanding of how the district functions. I understand that the majority wants to eliminate current board members, but it is my opinion that is very short-sighted. To further substantiate my support, I offer the following. Bob is highly intelligent, understands the division, brings a set of unique skills to the board. He is fair and unbiased. He is committed, as evidenced by his activities within the district the past 6 years. He's not politically motivated, most important. He is even-tempered, he is professional in his interactions with board members and the community. He understands parental rights, he does his research, he wants to serve all of the educational community. He is a true believer in the public education system. He is an excellent, exceptional servant leader that will continue to serve our community in a manner that will enhance and advance the education of our children. Thank you.
Yes, again, I'd like to second that motion as well. I appreciate his service to our community on the school board and also as a citizen of Lynchburg, supporting so many nonprofits, supporting so many measures that has taken us to another place in our community. He's been a faithful member of our school board. They mentioned he has never missed one meeting. I served on the school board for 9 years. I'm a product of, one of the only ones here, a product of the Lynchburg school system, and we want to see our school system be the best. That expert knowledge he's had over the past 6 years, we need to continue that on to help support our school system, to keep that institutional knowledge at our school board. Instead of bringing a new person in, we need to maintain the same knowledge that we have so we can continue to improve our school system. Thank you.
I thank Councilor Dolan and Wilder for offering the substitute. And I think there's a few things that need to be offered before speaking to why I believe a different path is most appropriate. There is no more calm, I would say thoughtful, nice guy that I've met when it comes to Lynchburg government than I would say Dr. Brennan. And it is all true to say, yep, every meeting. I don't see an absence. I admittedly really haven't checked the record, but I'd imagine he's at most of them. School functions, school activities, yes, they're all there. And in my interview and questions, I this year try to take a slightly different approach and ask just one very simple thing. So once again, I do apologize to my colleagues for having to hear this for probably the 17th time. This was the basis of my question. A lot of times, when offering criticism, which is okay, to the public school division in Lynchburg, the criticism is built around declining enrollment. And I usually shift course and say, okay, enrollment goes up and down for a variety of reasons. So I focus more on the graduation rate. There's a lot that goes into that, I realize that, but work with me here. When talking about graduation rate, the criticism there by some is that, well, we have a high poverty rate, and that seriously hinders us in our ability to graduate students. So I did some digging, looking at similar school systems across the state, urban environments, cities, older communities in that regard. Newport News has a graduation rate of 95.8. Charlottesville has a graduation rate of 93. Stanton, 85.7, Petersburg, 87, Roanoke, 85, Harrisonburg, 85, and Lynchburg is at 80.1 at the bottom of this list. Now to the poverty rate. Newport News has 15.8, Charlottesville has 23.1, Stanton has 12.3, Petersburg, 21.3, Roanoke, 18.4, Harrisonburg, 25.8, and Lynchburg at 17.6. Now I know that's a lot of data, but here's the takeaway. In this instance, you want a delta, you want a spread that is as wide as possible. You want a higher graduation rate and a lower poverty rate. Newport News takes tops. They have the highest graduation rate and the lowest poverty rate. Lynchburg's second to the bottom. We have the lowest graduation rate and the second closest overall delta. So the whole premise of we have poverty and therefore our graduation rate suffers doesn't meet muster, in my opinion. And I ask this question because that's ultimately what the point is. We're supposed to graduate students, and there's a lot of factors that impact this. And ultimately, if you look at the track record, Lynchburg is not meeting muster. We're not meeting standards. And so I fundamentally believe we need a different path. We need new leadership. And so it's for that reason that I'm supporting another candidate, and it's certainly without deep appreciation for the time that is taken, probably more than council, to serve on the school board. And I made this decision solely on the numbers and seeking greater results for our students.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've had 6 people that we interviewed actually in District 1. And so since we're talking about District 1 now, there's 6 people that we interviewed, very good interviews, lots of folks that were, took the time, cared about the community, had a really good path forward for the schools, which we know there's lots of problems. I mean, we've had the declining enrollment, we've had increased funding, we've had decreased graduation, increased dropout rate, turnover for our city school staff. Our teachers have been leaving because they're concerned about discipline. So the good thing is we had interviews right here. We did them openly this year, thankfully. We pushed for that for years, but it worked out fine. Now we're to the point of there's 6 people of which we can look at and say, who are we going to appoint for District 1? There's a motion, there's a substitute motion, there's talk about this person versus that person. And, and rather than saying why I'm against somebody, I think it's probably better for us to maybe do like what we do in the election of president and vice president of council by having ballots. We got 6 people that are up on the thing. We're going to be making motions and substitute motions and for this for quite a long time, rather than us maybe going down the list and saying, who are you for? Who am I for? Then we can vote for those items. And so if we're going to do that, which I think would be prudent, I think Ms. Finney even has ballots for us that we could utilize. And with that, if there's division, obviously you revote and you drop off the low vote getter and move forward. Because in all the interviews that I did in District 1, I think that the best person that we have is Rebecca Turner. So we're going to have lots of different people. I mean, everybody's going to say somebody different. And so I think Rebecca Turner, who has been in the school board before, recognized that there were problems in a school. When COVID happened, she was on the school board that said, we're not going to close schools. And I went around to lots of principals, and every principal said the city's reaction to COVID was appalling. They closed schools. They closed schools more than just the time that the state government said. They closed them to an extra year. With that being the case, what happened with that was the fact that there's learning loss to no end. And now we're trying to say, what can we do to augment the, sorry to interrupt. So with that, I still have the floor. I still have the floor. So with that, the person that when you look at the items that were there, so I think rather than us going, why I'm against Bob Brennan or why I'm for this person or why I'm for Bob Brennan and back and forth, I think we should do the vote via the ballot. I'm for Rebecca Turner. I think she'd be a good one. I think that would save us some time. It'd be a little expeditious. We vote again just like we do with council. I mean, with the presiding officer. So for the substitute motion that was made for Bob Brennan, I've had good conversations with him. I appreciate him. We've had good, respectful dialogue, but I think we need a new direction. And I've told him that directly. I'm not one that says one thing behind someone's back and does something different. I say what I mean and mean what I say. And I've watched our city school system. I appreciate his diligence and his hard work. But that being the case, we need a new direction. We need bold leadership that's going to look out for the children, that's going to make sure our educational advancements and achievement increase, make sure that we're actually doing reading, writing, and arithmetic, sure that we're actually listening to our teachers, making sure we're actually pushing for merit, making sure that we're, I was thankful tonight that we had the valedictorian and the salutatorian speak, because they weren't going to be able to speak at their high school. They came here tonight. We had to recognize them. That's something different. I'm glad at Heritage they allowed them to speak. At East of Glass didn't. That's shocking. So with that being the case, I will not be voting for this motion. I don't think we should be just making a motion on an individual because who gets the motion the fastest out there, who gets recognized first, but we actually use the ballots like we do for president and vice president of council. And I would recommend that we actually use the ballots, but I'll be voting against this motion, and I'll be voting against in the main motion because I think Rebecca Turner would be the best one in this item.
So, Madam Mayor,
Point of order.
seeking to
Vice Mayor Giraldi, no.
Point of order.
Yeah, if you want it.
Section 6.8 says a council member who has not spoken on the issue shall be recognized before a council member who has already spoken.
All right, so point of order then, Mr. City Attorney. Should comments be made that is germane to the motion at hand? Yes. Thank you. Go ahead.
So what we saw here was a motion and a substitute motion. And, it was pretty obvious to me from being up here what occurred. It was rehearsed. And I will not be supporting Dr. Brennan back on the school board. It's nothing personal against Dr. Brennan. I think he's a wonderful person. I think he's done great things for our community, and I think he's committed to our city and our schools. I just think that we need to go a different direction. However, it would be kind of, just to throw it out there, if this was rehearsed, for this to be an attempt to get somebody who was a campaign donor to the mayor's campaign on the school board without giving us an opportunity to actually ballot the other candidates for the school board, that would be rather disappointing.
So we're going to call the vote for the substitute. Oh, Vice Mayor Feroldi.
No. I'm looking forward to the time when there's a certain zoning recommendation and we really see who is donating to who. So let's not bring donors into this. If you really care about ballots, I've got a petition circulating that probably be really helpful for some assistance on that. But Madam Mayor, respectively, I had a certain discussion with Councilmember Helgeson on the phone today where it was my interpretation walking away from that the normal operation we have was an appropriate one where, yes, we're recognized, we motion, we have a vote, and then we move on. So I'd be curious why there's a certain change in that perception.
Right, so we will vote on the substitute motion, please, which is on, Dr. Wilder, actually, I was meant to call him.
One quick comment. One thing I have noticed is that during the time that Dr. Brennan was on the school board, the graduation rate has increased by 5%. So I think it needs to be noted that it has gone up by 5%. And also, to Councilman Helgeson's point, he recommended Rebecca Turner. She was at a school board for 1 year in Michigan or somewhere that had a population of 236 people. That's a big difference than running the whole school system and was a charter school. How do you make a comparison to Lynchburg to a charter school? So that just me. I mean, if you want to do what's best for our city, you want to best for our city is a great man. They all talk about how great this man is. Then put him back in his place.
Thank you. We will now vote on the substitute motion for Dr. Brennan.
Two, 5.
All right, we'll now go back to the main motion, which was for District 1 for Christian DePaul. Any other discussion about Christian DePaul? No?
Yes.
We will go, yes, about Christian DePaul.
Yep. So, the Vice Mayor asked a question, and I agree. The difficulty is we're going to be going over these folks every time. And I think it really needs to be a fair shake. So I've known Christian for a long time. I think he's a great person, wonderful. But folks campaigned on the fact of we need to listen to parents. Rebecca Turner's got 4 kids that are in the public schools. She's been an advocate for her children at T.C. Miller, at Linkhorn. She has been an advocate for improving the graduation rate. So with that being the case, I don't know how we just say, because I like both of them, but of the 2 of them, I like Rebecca Turner better because of that very item. And so if we were to actually do the process that I think Councilmember Mischins sent that forward a while back, saying that if we do like a vote by ballot, I think that may make some sense, because there may be 4 people that say, hey, we're voting for the one person, or there may be 3 people and it dies, and we may vote again, but it doesn't give a fair shake to these other people. Jack Schul was another that was on that list. Deborah Trevsger was on that list of folks that we interviewed, and not actually giving them a fair shake at the ballot. Normally when we heard a lot of people talk about democracy. When you go vote for somebody, there may be 5, 6 people on the ballot. You get to decide which one. Right now, we have 6 people on the ballot, but it's only constrained to 2. I don't like that. I think we should actually vote. So on like passing out the ballot and say why you like that person, because I'm going to be voting against this main motion for Christian, even though I know him and like him, because I think we have a better alternative. A woman that has raised her children and still has kids in the public school.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we will now vote on Christian DePaul for District 1.
The motion passes 4-3.
Okay, moving on to District 2. May I have a... Pardon, yeah, Vice Mayor Feraldi.
I move to appoint Letitia Lowry to District 2.
Letitia Lowry for District 2. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Do you want on your motion? No?
Not unless someone wants to speak first.
Discussion? No? Okay, well then let's cast our vote for Letitia Lowry for District 2.
The motion passes 7-0.
Okay, lastly with District 3, may I have a motion? Yes.
I'd like to make a motion, Andrew Glover for District 3.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Andrew has been working very hard for many years to really bring parents to the forefront of what's going on in Lynchburg City Schools. And, you know, I campaigned with myself and 2 other Republicans on honoring and respecting parents' rights. And right now, if we don't put Andrew Glover on the school board, then we're not going to put a single current parent on the Lynchburg City Schools Board. And that is very unfortunate, right? Andrew's got school-age children. He knows exactly what the challenges are in Lynchburg City Schools, because he had to pull his children out because of the way that they were being treated and the way his rights weren't being respected as a parent. Andrew has a deep commitment to the special needs community because he's got a special needs child of his own. And I believe that Andrew would just be a huge benefit for our city on the school board to be an advocate for parents and parents' rights. That's what I campaign for. That's what I intend to follow through on.
Okay. Councilman Helgeson?
Nothing to add.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote for Andrew Glover. Oh, sorry, Dr. Wallace.
I do not support that motion. Based on his record, based on his conduct with the school board, based on his yelling at the school board members, based on his horrible rhetoric, he's trying to bring chaos to the school board that has been brought to city council. And if Lynchburg wants to have some normalcy like we have in progressing our city over the past 20 plus years, we will say no to this. If you look at what's happened to our city council since January, it has been unbelievable. So we do not want to see that same rhetoric go to our school board for our children. Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote. for Andrew Glover for District 3.
The motion fails, 3-4.
Madam Mayor.
Yes. Vice Mayor Feraldi.
I move to approve Fareed Jalil to District 3.
A motion for F.J. Jalil for District 3. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Substitute motion.
Okay, substitute.
I have,
Wait, hold on one
Go
second. Go ahead.
Can I, let me take
You're going
never
to speak
mind.
to your motion?
Yep. If Marty wants to speak, then go to him. That's fine. If you want to just go ahead.
I was going to recommend up to Cora Davis, but you go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
So we're down to 2 candidates for District 3. One is F.J. Jalil, who I know very well. F.J. will be a staunch advocate for parents as well. I thought Andrew was a better choice, but I believe F.J. will also be an excellent choice and will do great things for our schools. He's got experience inside the schools as a substitute teacher, and he brings a wealth of experience with him with children and schools, and he's a fierce advocate for youth and a volunteer for youth, and I will speak extremely highly of F.J. Jalil. And I think it would also be important to note that the city attorney made us aware of a potential that there could be an issue with appointing Cora Davis based on a Virginia statute, with her potentially being an officer of the Commonwealth in her job. So I cannot in good faith support Cora Davis. While I was extremely impressed with her interview, the potential for a conflict or liability down the road with the Code of Virginia and her candidacy, I just can't support her.
Okay. Dr. Wilder?
I was making a substitute motion for Cora Davis, excuse me.
Yes.
But I need a second.
Am I still want to second the substitute motion? Want to second it? Okay.
And I recommend to Cora, she has children in her school system. She is a probation officer. She did get a legal opinion saying it's okay for her to be considered for the school board. I mean, because she's been active in our school system, active with her children in our school system. We talked about making sure our kids understand the rules of punishment and things of that nature because of some problems here in our school system. She's in that area, so she has seen things firsthand. So I definitely recommend her for the school board. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? No? Okay, so we'll vote on the substitute motion for Cora Davis, please.
The motion fails, 3-4.
Okay, we'll go back to the original motion for F.J. Jalil. You want to speak to that? Yes.
I'll be voting against this motion. I know FJ, good fellow. Folks campaigned on listening to parents. Means you have at least some parents of kids. We talked about somebody that we voted on a minute ago that I thought should have gotten the vote and nomination. FJ doesn't, I mean, a good person will look at good things. I just think we need somebody that understands the issues, has the courage to actually address the issue. You know, when COVID happened, there were lots of people that said, we got to close schools. A lot of people said, oh, you got to get masks, you got to do all this and do all that because people are going to die left and right in school systems. In the school system. For young, healthy kids. So they said, let's close schools. Let's have a 5-year-old learn phonics with a mask. With that, every principal that I've talked to since in Lynchburg has said, this was terrible. This was bad. What it does is, after the fact, when things are bad that happen, you kind of assess and say, why did the bad things happen? Did nobody warn us? Well, there's some people that warned you. I was one. Andrew Glover was another. Andrew Glover came to the school board meetings and said, don't close the schools. Don't force the school to be shut, because that's going to be learning loss for these children. And that's exactly what happened. You know, you can sit and laugh and hoot and holler all you want. But the fact is, our children lost a year. Can you imagine our kids that couldn't go to the prom because of some government bureaucrat said, you're done. Somebody who qualified as an athlete to make it to the state tournament, done, sorry. That kind of thing is rotten. That's why we need people that are gonna question, rather than when the bureaucrats speak and just say, oh, this is the way it is. You know, I was glad once we interviewed Dr. Brennan, asked him about what you thought about, and said, yeah, we did it wrong. Glad, after the fact, in hindsight. Well, in hindsight, these kids lost a year, lost 2 years. It was bad. I think we need somebody with courage on the school board, and Andrew has done that. And again, I said that to his face. I stand on my convictions. I think he would make an excellent school board member. FJ is a good person, but I think we need the backbone and tenacity that Andrew has.
Okay, so now we're going to call the vote for FJ Jalil.
The motion passes 5-2.
Okay. Moving on to Councilman Mischin's draft resolution to promote merit, excellence, and opportunity in city government. Vice Mayor Feraldi.
Madam Mayor, I would ask if we could consider the school funding first, just briefly, if that's okay. That way we can get the city staff that need to be here out of here, just in case.
Okay, that's fine.
Is that okay?
Doing the LCS thing first?
Good with
Okay.
that. Thank you.
That's fine. So who needed to get up here for that? Oh, yeah, consideration of adopting resolution R23061, amending Lynchburg City Schools major classification funding for fiscal year 2024. Was there a discussion that we needed to have on this before we, I believe there were some questions, correct? Staff?
Madam Mayor, there was a piece of information that Dr. Woduka sent kind of late last week. And I just wanted to make sure with each of you that you have the information together. I think it was put in the Dropbox earlier by the city clerk. If anything, it was just to, Mr. Mischins had asked this question posed and asked about certain positions and that type of thing. So Dr. Woduka sent it kind of late last week, which is, everyone's busy. And so just wanted to make sure that everyone saw that, and it kind of helped with the ability to kind of move forward or have questions, what have you.
Yes, go ahead, Councilman Mischins, I'm sorry.
So the resolution, I'm not actually seeing the resolution in the agenda packet online. So the resolution we're voting on is not there. It just has.
For consent agenda, we don't usually include any materials. So the city manager asked me to include the attachment that Dr. Woduka sent along, so I
Okay.
did that. So no, the resolution, since it's supposed to be on the consent agenda, is not included in your packet.
Was that in the work session last?
It was. So if you
Okay,
wanna
so I can pull it up
call
right
it
here. All right. And last week's work session is not published. So what are the numbers? What are the numbers of the resolution that are going where in the funding?
Is there anything we can pull up on the screen right here, by any chance? Or- No?
No, that only drives from that computer.
Okay. Did you not have this sheet? I'm sorry. Did you want
Yeah,
to
but
see
that's not the resolution.
The
Those are just the
resolution, okay.
costs. Those are the, because there's a disparity between what the actual cost of those people are versus, because it looks like there's a significant cost associated with the people on that sheet.
Right.
Versus the money that's actually being moved, and the intent when we did this was to make sure that we were putting instruction funding towards instructional personnel.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Vice Mayor.
So I have it here.
You've got it.
54 or something.
Yeah, I believe I have it right. I'll just read it. Whereas on June X 2023, Lynchburg City Schools requested the fiscal year 2024 adopted schools operating budget be amended by transferring funds between major classifications. More specifically, that $705,385,000 from administration, attendance, and health, and $629,471 from technology be transferred to instruction.
So how much was that first amount for
First-
704?
705.
Yeah, right here.
From administration?
Yep. And just call it 630 from technology to instruction.
All right, now I got them both up in front of me.
And so this amount is 17.5. So adding those two, it's like 13. 1.3.
So we're taking 705,000 from administration, and we're moving positions into instruction that have a total cost of 1.7 million. So with that, what we're doing is we're actually taking $1 million away from the instructional personnel that are in instruction, if I'm correct, right? So we're using the cost of instruction to cover these administrative personnel, because what was sent to us says that the total cost of the reclassification positions is 1.7 million from administration, but we're only moving 700,000 from administration into instruction.
Yes. Karen Capozzi, Chief Financial Officer, Lynchburg City
So
Schools.
can you just speak to that? That's the question I'm trying to
I understand. So within instruction, we made reductions. We cut out any vacancies that we were able to get rid of. We cut down on in purchase services. We heard what y'all said, and we prioritized staff over the stuff. So we reduced the stuff as much as possible within instruction, and then did the same thing in the other categories that we were able to. And that's where we came up with the excess in administration and in technology to be able to fund those student-facing staff that were moved from administration into instruction.
Okay, so I still don't know that answers my question, because
okay.
Let me back up where I can see all this in one spot. There's a lot going on here on the screen. So when I'm looking at this, we had 74.5 million in instruction, and what we're moving from administration is 705. Now, I guess the other question that I didn't ask was about the technology. Let me go back to that letter and look at what the total cost was on the technology. There it is. So then oh, well, you guys didn't even include that in here. So the 630,000 that's being taken out of technology and moved to instruction, is that people or is that stuff?
No, that is also stuff. We reduced the stuff. We reduced purchase services, any software that we could decrease the funding on,
Okay.
any substitutes, any vacancies that we don't feel we have any possibility of filling. That's what we
Okay.
reduced.
And so then the delta ends up just being slight around 400,000. Considering that, looking at that and the way that that was explained, I'm going to make a motion to approve the reclassification request.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Did you want to speak to that? Or
No,
you-
I mean, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't moving money into instruction to try to cover high-paid administrative positions, and based on the fact that that technology amount is not people, it's stuff. I don't want to take away from our teachers and our teachers' assistants and the people that are actually serving our kids and our students and working real hard to make sure they know how to read, write, and do math. I don't want to take away from them for high-paid executives. And it looks to me like you guys are not doing that from what I'm seeing here and the answers you just gave me and the numbers that were presented. So I'm pleased with what's being requested, and I would like to approve it.
Okay. Dr. Wilder? Same thing?
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Vice Mayor Foley?
I have a substitute motion.
Okay.
I move that the motion be substituted to this, that Lynchburg City Council approve the resolution as presented and adjourns immediately upon its adoption.
Okay, I'll second that. Oh, you can second it.
Speaking to the motion, this is correct. This looks good by my eye. And it's important to me that all matters, especially financial, come to us in a manner of which that is appropriate and honors our procedures. And I'm realizing that I've been a stickler for making sure my comments are germane. It's important that when items are presented, they are articulated in a manner in which that is respectful of those who get the documentation to us. And the other item on the agenda, so to speak, did not meet that level of respect. And so I am making this motion because it was downright insulting to see how city staff were treated. And I do not believe that resolution has earned the right to even be debated, let alone if you're for it or against it. And so I ask that we vote on this substitute motion, adopt it, and then in so doing, the meeting will be adjourned. Thank you.
Mary Jane? Oh, sorry, Councilwoman Dolan. Did you want to speak to your second?
No, I support this because I think the resolution has no value and I'm not interested in any conversation about it.
Okay. Councilman Helgeson?
You know, I think this motion is actually out of order because the first motion is actually to approve the same thing. The order of the second motion would be after we do this, would be then to amend the agenda or to actually recess or actually cease the meeting. That would be a motion that would be in order rather than packaging it with a motion that's already the exact same thing. Secondly, there has been movement on the agenda today. There's been discussion about the agenda today. And there was saying, hey, let's move this one ahead of the discussion about the merit, excellence, and opportunity resolution to discuss. Because people came. People came, and we talked this afternoon that we don't vote on things in work session. Let's vote on them when the public is present. Well, the public came. At least we should have some level of discussion. And I do believe that Councilmember Mischens was going to say, as I mentioned to the Vice Mayor this afternoon, that could be moved to a work session. Say your piece on it. Don't thwart a council member's resolution that's put on there fairly and accurately. Thwart it by a Robert's rules or a technicality, a process to thwart that. Lots of people wanted to hear things. They came out and said, vote for it or vote against it. I think Carlos said that. We want to see what you're doing. Great. At least you can hear what we're saying about it. But if we thwart the conversation just in tying it with a resolution that was originally a consent agenda item that somehow got moved to then a general business item, the last general business item, then that general business item got moved in front of the actual last business item in order to say we're not going to even hear the business item that is on here. I think that's disrespectful. I think we have council rules of procedure that say there's decorum, there's respect. When somebody puts a resolution for there, you may not like it and vote against it. That's perfectly your prerogative. But don't be disrespectful. Vote against this. Vote for the main motion that said we're going to actually fund the schools, thank for the change of the school of allocations as presented. Let that stand by itself. Then when we get to the next motion, if council members don't want to hear it, you're perfectly free to get up and leave. And if 4 people then leave, then we lose a quorum. Do that then, rather than insulting by trying to put in some parliamentary trick to throw in a resolution that's going to say we're going to immediately end the meeting. I'm not in favor of that. I think that's low class. I think it's very poor taste. I don't think it's good decorum and respect for our fellow, whether we agree or disagree. Fine, state your piece and be done. So I'll be voting against this. I would like to see us vote on the main resolution. And if you want to dismiss, bring up another resolution to dismiss. But I don't think that's together. So, thank you.
Councilman Mischens?
So now that we've changed the subject of the conversation, other than just funding the schools, and now we're talking about something that was actually going to affect the workforce. This is a laptop. I'm sure many of you know what's in that laptop. That's a bullet hole. That happened inside a city workplace. That employee continued to work here. The person on the other end of this laptop suffers from traumatic PTSD because of what happened to him inside the workplace. And the person that fired the handgun, not only is he still employed, but he got promoted. There are serious problems within our workforce. There are a couple of us up here that go out to the departments, you know. What you more often see is you see pictures of people hanging out with department heads and not talking to the people that actually work on the front lines. But if you talk to the people that work on the front lines, there are serious culture issues within the city government. Serious culture issues within the city government. It is unbelievable. Recently, a black firefighter was told he wasn't going to get an assignment because he was black. That is absolutely wrong on every level. And that is the spirit of this resolution that I wanted to take to a work session. My motion was going to be to take it to a work session and discuss it, because we've got to do something, because there are huge challenges facing our workforce. And I fully trust our city manager to be able to take care of it. And I actually had a discussion with him before this meeting started and said, you know what? I've thought about it. Talked to Councilman Taylor about it. We're going to take it to a work session. We need to figure something out. We need to do something different. Because the culture inside the workplace and city government is not good. The tenets, the 9 things in the sexist and racist concepts, I don't even have it on here, a printed copy of it. Dr. Holly Jennings, our director of DEI, in a meeting yesterday, she said, I know exactly what these are. These are the basic tenets and foundations of critical race theory, and they have no place in our government. That is what our chief of diversity, equity, and inclusion said yesterday in a meeting in the upstairs conference room. And she said they have no place inside city government. And anybody that actually wants to look at people for their merits and actually look at people and have them qualify on what they offer and bring to the table would agree that that has no place. Your color, your race, your gender identity, your orientation should have nothing to do with whether or not you get hired, fired, promoted, treated a certain way, or any of that in the workplace. And that is the spirit of this, because there are huge challenges in our workplace. I actually popped in to one of these training sessions on Thursday, unannounced, and I took notes. And you know what you could walk away with from that training session? You could walk away with, if somebody is deliberately avoiding you, right? That they are committing nonverbal dehumanization, and this is like, you have to actually make the assumption that somebody's deliberately avoiding you. That is a life-threatening act. So just because somebody chooses to congregate with somebody else, we're teaching that it's threatening their lives? That is absolutely and utterly insane. What we need to do is we need to make sure that we aren't funding anything with taxpayer dollars that's going to divide anybody in this community. Anybody. Now, is my resolution as proposed perfect? Maybe not. Does something need to be done? Absolutely. Because we have a Civil Rights Act and we have a Virginia Human Rights Act, which is actually more stringent than the Civil Rights Act. And you know what? The focus of these trainings has nothing to do with what the law actually says. It's all theory. We need to make sure people understand the law, and the law is clear. No one should be discriminated against. No one should be harassed, and no one should be retaliated against. And let me tell you something, the retaliation going on inside our city government is unbelievable at every level. At every level, across departments, and it's got to stop. And I will not stop fighting for the line worker that serves our citizens, because I talk to them on a regular basis. On a regular basis. So I'm very disappointed. And honestly, I just think it's fear to not want to position this for a vote that I intended to say, hey, let's take it to a work session and work it out. And I'm hoping that the vice mayor will reconsider his motion, that will pass the school funding, and that will make sure people aren't rewarded for doing this inside a city workplace.
So, I am looking at this on the merits by whom it was presented. And I am looking at this as if I am retaliating, because I am. You are downright disrespectful to our city staff. You are downright insulting to their character. You are downright offensive to their reputation. And the manner in which you engaged them after they broke their backs to offer you everything you needed to get to this point today, that is why I'm retaliating to the way you have brought this before the city. I'm not scared of anything. I just went after your biggest donor who's sitting in this room. I don't care. All I'm saying is this: the way it got here is wrong. Our processes matter. Our way of conducting business matters. You want to talk about how we engage people? I dare anyone in this room to FOIA the emails that have gone on coming from your fingertips because of how downright wrong. Accusing some conspiracy that they were leaked ahead of time when you were the one who shared it to the news reporter. So look, and folks, I appreciate it, I really do, but please honor the rules. Marty, this is not about what I think for or against it. It is solely based on how bad you handled this. If you want to bring it forward and reconsider it in a positive way, I know a lot of folks in the room are not going to be happy with me on this one, then let's discuss it. Let's hash it out. This hasn't even earned the right to be discussed because of how bad you handled this. Let's vote, be done, and go home.
All right, so we're voting on the substitute motion
voting
to approve and adjourn.
Sorry. Yes, I'm voting yes on that. That was my motion.
Yes, substitute motion to approve the school refunding and then also adjourn the meeting.
Just a quick question, the city attorney. Like as I mentioned earlier, my question, I don't think you had ample time to answer it. When it's the same motion to approve the school funding, now it's a substitute motion that's to approve the school funding, but then to adjourn. Is that, I mean, don't the motions have to be, you know?
So what I would suggest to City Council is not, and these rules are a guiding light. They are not mandatory in the sense that they should hinder you all from doing what you all want to do as a majority. So as I understand the procedure where we are, a substitute motion has been proposed that includes something additional to what the main motion was. That is to essentially adjourn the meeting, effectively amending the agenda, so to speak, to make it to where everything is deemed concluded by City Council. So what I would submit is if the substitute motion replaces the main motion, Council would then vote again to adopt that main motion and conclude.
Okay, so we will now vote on the substitute motion. Okay, we gotta make it the main motion. Okay, so now now the substitute motion is the main motion. We will vote again to approve and adjourn.
Let's get out of here.
Everybody vote? We're voting again on the main motion, which is the substitute motion. All right, meeting's adjourned. Our next meeting is on July 11th, 2023 at 4 p.m.